James Andre is covering the election for France 24, and he joins us now from a polling station in the capital, Tehran. James, voting already underway. How are things going there?
Yes, indeed. As you can see behind me, there is a line of people who have come here to vote in this very well-known mosque in central Tehran. The crowd behind me is mostly composed of conservative voters. We've spoken to a few of them who said that they wanted to be early. One man told us actually that he'd got up early and that he expects that the next president will also get up early and work for the people. So people here are indeed, very motivated for this election. But the fact of the matter is, we've been to a couple of other polling stations, and for now there aren't large crowds. But it is still early hours of this voting process. Now, we have in the previous days spoken to a lot of people on the streets of Tehran. Now, we weren't allowed to leave the city. It was simply the capital. But those people were telling us that many of them was telling us quite openly, actually, which is surprising, that we're not planning on voting today. So indeed, turnout is going to be a very important issue, probably the main issue in this election, where, as you said, Ebrahim Raisi, the hardliner, is a very clear favorite, and a lot of moderate and reformist voters have decided not to cast their ballots.
Yeah, James, I'm wondering that disillusionment. This election coming against a backdrop of this economic crisis, uncertain relations with the West. How are these issues driving or affecting this vote?
Very much so. The big issue here in Iran is the economy. The economy has just been through a terrible storm. It was hit by two major events. One was Donald Trump withdrawing from the Iranian nuclear deal, the JCPOA, back in 2018, and then slapping a terrible set of sanctions onto the country. That has destroyed the economy, destroyed a lot of jobs, and indeed pushed inflation. And then there was the coronavirus pandemic. Iran is the country that has been the hardest hit in the Middle East, with over 60,000 people who have died of the disease, and that, of course, has crippled the economy further. As a result, there has been a 48% inflation in the past year. The money has lost 50% of its value since 2020, and indeed, while people are struggling. People were telling us yesterday in central Tehran that on a normal salary, it's practically impossible to make ends meet, that everything is too expensive, that it's impossible to pay for the high rents. Housing is also a problem. That is, for example, one of the main propositions of candidate Ebrahim Raisi, this hardliner who is set to probably win, who is the head of the judiciary. Well, he says he's going to build 1 million homes a year. So, as you can see, the economy is really central. And of course, there is the posture of the country towards the West. And this is something that's going to be watched closely inside and outside of Iran, of course, to see how this new president, once again, Raisi is very probably going to win. He's a very hard-line conservative. How will he react on the international scene? That, of course, is a question mark, though experts do believe that the Iranian nuclear deal renegotiation will probably carry on. But indeed, in the country, it is very much all about the economy, and a lot of people are disgruntled. They feel that changing presidents is not going to help them on an everyday basis. This is why everyone is very much going to be focused on turnout today. And indeed, while the authorities and the supreme guide, Ali Khamenei, has indeed called upon people, told them that it is a religious duty to come and cast their ballots.
James, I was wondering if you could explain to our viewers, where does power in Iran actually lie? It's not with the president, is it?
Now, the president has quite limited power in reality. The real power lies with the supreme guide. That is Ali Khamenei. There's a picture of him actually right next to me. There are pictures of him pretty much everywhere in the city. And a good example of that power, okay, is the fact that, for example, all candidates have to be vetted by the Guardian Council. That is a 12-member council that decides who is allowed to run in a presidential election or not. Well, there were 592 candidates, included 40 women, that had stepped up for a bid to become president. Well, out of these, for nearly 600 candidates, only 7 were indeed vetted and made eligible by this council. And out of those 7, then a further 3 dropped out. But a lot of people here in the country are saying that basically, well, the actual real power in the country, the religious power, as the power of the supreme guide here has expressed itself, making sure that indeed there was no real reformist bid here against Mr. Raisi. Now, of course, this is a duel with Mr. Hemati, who is the more moderate candidate, but still this vetting process has given a very clear advantage to Ebrahim Raisi.
All right, James, thank you very much. James Andre reporting from Tehran.